Hi everyone, so in this focus we're looking here at the significance of methods of feedback in your DE online class at LTCC. We would say that effective feedback is one of the hallmarks of quality distance instruction. Quite frankly, if you don't have feedback in your DE class, the students cannot possibly learn any of the content, because we want to stress an online class, a DE class, is not a correspondence class. What an online class needs to be is a very active engagement in which the instructor and the student partakes in conversations and dialogues and activities, exercises throughout the course of studying a particular discipline, which is your discipline of expertise. Within the Canvas learning management system, feedback certainly comes in many sizes and shapes. We could say that anything including the following: written comments on assignments, discussion post responses, video conferences, and inbox conversations all constitute feedback. How you give the feedback, how you go about that, the length of your responses, of course, that's up to you and your academic freedom. But we have to emphasize in this video that feedback is part and parcel of a successful DE class. Many colleges are aware of issues related to a lack of effective instructor feedback in their courses. The ASCCC, or Academic Senate for California Community Colleges, recently spoke of such a concern. This was a paper, you can check it out online. I believe it was in 2019. Just go to the ASCCC and type in Title V in distance education. And this is what I thought was really interesting, this quote here that I've highlighted. And it said here, in an online class, a student posted to social media a screenshot of back-to-back identical positive feedback on different assignments from the same course. The student bemoaned in his post, "But how am I supposed to grow if my professor copies sick, an error, and pastes feedback?" followed by a crying emoji. As DE instructors receive assignments at different times from different students of differing skill levels and learning styles, whom they perhaps have never met in person, they strive to provide meaningful interactions in humanizing ways that are conducive to learning. So I think the point is to say what the Senate is saying: don't ever provide something that's standard. It's very easy to write some sort of standard comment for all your quizzes and cut and paste that into the comment box on your grading in Canvas. The better thing is to authentically engage with each and every student and customize that feedback to his or her needs. Every student is different in a face-to-face class in terms of their understanding of, let's say, a mathematical equation. So you can't have a one-size-fits-all approach in terms of providing effective feedback in your DE course. Here's some additional information that you can look at. This is all from Ed Code from Title V, and it shows you all the regulations related to things like course quality, the quality of DE courses, everything related to how they basically have to be as identical as imaginable to face-to-face courses. So there isn't a two-tier system that says a DE class is somehow less than a face-to-face class just because it's offered in the DE modality. So it's just really important to know that the state, it's in our law, there's backing here, there's foundation in terms of the quality of our courses. So some reminders about feedback then: we should be reminded that all feedback should be regular and consistent. Be sure to state specifics in your syllabus. So say to your students, I plan, if you turn in a paper, I will respond within 48 hours. That specificity really gives the student a sense of how to plan their work calendar around your schedule, your grading, and so forth. If you're not specific about that, it's really not a positive learning environment, because the students don't have the opportunity to really gain from your feedback in a regular and consistent sense. Secondly, make sure your feedback is always authentic and not canned, copied, or standardized. So I mentioned this earlier, we shouldn't cut and paste the same feedback, or we shouldn't just say good job and a smiley face emoji. We need something much more than that. It has to be, as I say here, always individualized. If instruction is individualized, tailored to each student and his or her needs, then the feedback that correlates or goes along with that instruction also by default then needs to be individualized for each and every student. As well, feedback should always be specific in terms of grading criteria. We advise you to use a rubric, and that rubric allows you to get very specific into levels of nuance. And be sure to watch the grading block as well, because if you have a rubric, you can more clearly state how the student met or did not meet 4, 5, or even 10 separate components broken down of any particular assignment that you're giving in the class. And always, of course, suggest improvement in that feedback. It's always a good thing to praise a little bit and suggest improvement. So you really did a great job in this section, but for your next paper, please improve on this. So balancing that nice language of encouraging someone and then also suggesting someone improves in an area is balanced and a little more appropriate, because sometimes students are intimidated by professors and grades and feedback. So it's a way really to balance what you're saying to the student between being very critical and being too supportive and too obsequious and praising them for maybe work that isn't all that great. So maybe hit it in the middle there in terms of suggestions for improvement and positive ideas of what they did do well in the work. And then, of course, feedback is always rooted in your disciplinary expertise. So if you're giving feedback to students, it shouldn't be very general. It should really be, if I'm teaching anthro, well, in the discussion of cultural relativism and ethnocentrism, you really need to look at this, because anthropologists would suggest, based on the literature, that, and you fill in all those gaps. So it shouldn't be, again, standardized. Your feedback really needs to reflect your knowledge as a disciplinary faculty member, such that the students are gaining not just from the content, but from the disciplinary feedback that you're providing them. So here's the tip to think about. Use feedback as an opportunity to create, quote, chain conversations between you and your students. This allows for more in-depth, personalized, and processual feedback loops with your students. So what I like about the grading system in Canvas, which I pictured here, is this is an assignment, and then I could put the score in there, I could give my comments, and then what happens is the student could come in and give his or her comments as well. So what you get is a chain of conversations. And over time, you can build on this, and the grading area of Canvas, surprisingly enough, becomes its own pedagogical tool to use and deploy in your class. And it's kind of amazing. We may not think of it that way, but it's really an opportunity to create chains of conversations or feedback loops such that we are having active engagement between the instructor and the student, even in something seemingly so mundane and routine as the grading area of your Canvas assignment. So please do think of chaining conversations within the grading system of Canvas. So at this point, you can continue to your next block.